On this episode of AV Week, we take a look at hiding the AV in your next installation, the impact of lawsuits and patents on the AV industry. And Kramer has a new CEO. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 430, recorded Friday, November 15th, 2019. See No AV.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Vadio, makers of the new NDI professional broadcast camera, the RoboShot 30E NDI. And by Chief, the global leader in commercial AV mounting solutions. And by FSR. And by Biam.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, my buddy and pal, Mr. Jeremy Caldera from IAS, and also with Vix. I got to hang out with him last week in New Orleans. How are you, sir?
I am excellent, Tim.
Also with us, the man with the most colorful shirt in the world of AV. His name is Joel Carroll, and he is with Wolf Vision. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Good to be here.
I actually get to hang out with Joel next week. So actually, by the time you're watching this, it's this week. If you're in the Atlanta area, actually come out and hang out with us. If you're a tech manager, we'll put a link to that event, but that happens on Tuesday of this week. Last but not least, a new gentleman here with us, Will Seifert. Will is from CTSI out in Washington, D.C. way. Welcome, sir.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. So this week, a couple things fresh, kind of off the presses, happened on about a week ago. Shure Microflex Advanced, the Shure microphone, the MX-A910, has a new update to it for the installation in the drop ceiling. According to the article here, it is now available for pre-order in the U.S., quote unquote. The MX-A910W-A ceiling array microphone with DSP provides a quick, simple solution for installation in 24 by 24 inch grids in the U.S. Also includes the same technology as all the prior versions. It looks to be a different mounting system, mounting solution. Jeremy, we'll start with you on this. When it comes to updating this, and let's not be coy here, they're doing this new update because of a injunction resulting from a lawsuit filed by Clear One. The judge in that case put an injunction on Shure saying that they couldn't sell in the U.S. the existing mounting solution, and so Shure has come out with a different one. When you're talking with manufacturers who are involved in lawsuits and such like this, when you guys do your designs, how much of an impact does some of this uncertainty have on you to select a product, or do you guys just kind of go forward with some good faith, in the manufacturer saying, you know what, we trust you guys to figure it out. We're still going to put you in the design.
It's a challenge, right? I mean, this is honestly the first time in almost 20 years of being in this business where I've had a product that I use on a regular and consistent basis stop shipping because of a lawsuit, right? So I really didn't know how to approach it other than I think the product is great and I continued to sell it. There are some workarounds, you can order versions from other countries, for example, and just make them work. But yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, but you just have to trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Will, same kind of question to you. When you guys start looking at this and start dealing with your manufacturers, what kind of questions do you ask them and saying, should we put this in or should we kind of wait and see? In the meantime, they're losing business to alternative versions of whatever it is product that is involved in this suit.
I think anytime we spec a product, we want to make sure that product exists and it's been tested and is actually going to serve the client's needs when we do it. We're not asking, hey, you're expecting to have a judge prohibit you from selling that product, from day one. But we kind of have faith that if something's being manufactured and we've tested it, that we'll spec it out there. In this case, when things weren't available and we knew the timeline of projects, if it was a project that was, years out, we would spec something similar, just saying this is the placeholder for that type of technology, knowing something would be around. If it was something that had to get delivered in 90 days, it wasn't a product we could use because it wasn't available.
Yeah, because of that short timeline. Is it something contractually? And I understand that there are different folks have different legal bindings that you can put, in that placeholder, or is it something where you have to put in the actual product, the model number and everything, even though the job may be, 16, 18 months down the road?
Well, obviously, I think the more real scenario was, we had jobs that had that product specified to be installed and it was unable to be procured to be installed. That's where you run into other issues, and that's where working with the different manufacturers and having a good line of communication is always beneficial. Making sure the clients are well informed too as to what's going on and what the choices are.
Yeah, absolutely. Joel, you are our resident manufacturer for this week's show. You guys have to have a contingency plan. You have to have some sort of plan somewhere where you rip it open and go, okay, holy crap, we're getting sued. This is what we do. I'm not asking you for WorldVision specifically, but you've worked for a number of manufacturers, so give me some generalizations here. When that happens, or if that happens, what does that look like from a manufacturer standpoint? What is your guys's, or in general, what does a manufacturer need to do and to not only serve their clients, but also help them serve their clients as well?
Well, I mean, it really kind of depends on a lot of these applications. In this case, it was a very specific microphone that works a very specific way. But we've seen in other applications as well. A lot of it I think is going to be company dependent, to be honest, Tim. I mean, if you're a company like the Extrons and the Atlonas and some of these other guys, typically they'd have a lot of other solutions that might be able to recommend to get around to maybe suggest, here's another way to do the same thing. When it's a very specific type product, I have to say from a sales management standpoint, what I do now, that would really hurt me almost personally, because I'd have to make that phone call and be like, hey, guys, I'm sorry, I can't deliver because of this, because of that, and I don't have another solution because we've only got one option.
Yeah.
I mean, at the roles that most of us are in, it's not the most comfortable conversation to pick up that phone and go, hey, you got to hang on a minute.
Is it, I hate to use the Band-Aid metaphor because I really hate, but is it one of those things where you just have to rip it off and just start making the phone calls and say, look, here's the situation sooner rather than later? Or is it something where to give your site guys some time here, you maybe you hold back for a day or two, hoping the situation resolves itself, and then eventually you've just got to make those calls?
Not being an expert at anything in the legal world, anything that comes legal takes forever. I mean, it's just, to me, it's a Band-Aid process. I mean, for me personally, and when I'm told this is what's going on, or if I ever am in that situation, I'd rather just rip it off and let them know. Because the sooner I'm able to let those customers know what's going on, they can make a decision for what's best for them. To me, in my opinion, the worst thing we can do is hold back and say, just wait, which then is going to continue to hurt the dealers, the customers, whoever it is that's waiting for that specific product to come in. I don't think waiting would be the right way, in my opinion.
And news doesn't age like wine.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
All right, guys. We actually have two different stories that we're going to wrap around this common theme. And what is the two stories actually is Atlas IAD's new SHS speaker was put in by Ford AV. Actually, to help a military training camp hide the speakers and hide the audio systems. And the other one is from our friends over at AV Network and talking about Atlona's new control system that's small and you can stick it wherever you want in small meeting spaces. These two stories kind of converged in a conversation I had with my buddy Chris Netto, who years ago in previous 2 or 3 previous lives was an on-site consultant for a number of drug companies up in the Northeast. And he was constantly complaining about their people, the drug companies, not wanting to see AV, right? Not wanting to see the equipment. The SHS I saw a couple of years ago from Atlas, I think it was ISE 2 years ago. And just a really great system. It's small. You don't really even see the speaker. It looks like like a sprinkler head, actually, the hole it makes. And then you put the cover on it, and then you don't see it at all. You can print on it. The Lona piece is another piece that you can kind of place wherever you want under a table or what have you. Other companies have developed products that you can hide behind displays, under desks, and under boardrooms. Will, I'm going to start with you on this. When you're talking with clients, is this something you're seeing as a trend that folks are wanting to see less and less of the AV? They don't want to see these ginormous, 2-foot, 3-foot, stacks of equipment. They just want it to work, but they kind of want to be they want it to be out of eyesight. And if so, how are you guys solving that?
All sorts of solutions, but yeah, it's definitely something. Nobody wants to see the technology. They just want the technology to work. In rare cases where it might be some type of demo center or the whole vibe of the place is, tech, then they want to see it. But in general, whether it's just a little collaboration space or a boardroom or some type of other briefing environment, they don't want to see it. We work a lot with the federal government. A lot of those rooms, people get very paranoid when they start seeing, cameras and microphones and those types of things too. So it's been something we've been doing for years and years and years, hiding it away, to the extent, we're working on an LED wall now where it's actually behind a veneer.
Oh, wow.
So when it's not on, it looks like part of the millwork down the wall. That's the environment that people want.
Yeah. Is it in an installation that you can share once that's done? Because that sounds really cool.
It will be in a public place. Yep.
Excellent. Very cool. Mr. Carroll, when it comes, because I mentioned the fact that you worked for manufacturers before, so just again, generalize here. When you're talking with your clients and you're talking with integrators here, and they bring to you, what, this is a great product, I just can't put it anywhere, that nobody can see this, right? Actually, my first introduction to Wolf Vision was years ago. I was programming a system at a college here in St. Louis, and I had to fix an issue with the document camera, and you push document camera, and it came on, and it was on the screen. I couldn't find the stupid thing to save my life, and it was actually in the ceiling. I thought it was a brilliant idea. I'd never seen a doc cam like that. But somebody brings to you, and you're like, "This is a great product. We just need to hide it." How do you solve that?
It's coincidence that we're talking about this, because I was actually in a historic courtroom yesterday, and they were talking about all the things that they can't do. And it was a list of not everything they could. It was, I can't, but I need. And all the I can'ts is what they needed. So you couldn't pair them together. And it's hard. When I first got into AV years ago, nobody wanted to see the AV. And you've got the big speakers and the big racks of gear and everything, but the technology's changed in such ways where everything's kind of being streamlined down. One box is doing multiple things. And when I was sitting literally in that courtroom yesterday, I was thinking of what could we potentially recommend, even if it's something I don't have, to help them fix that. But to me, the historical nature was also very interesting. Yeah. Making those changes was very key. And the technology is such that we can do almost anything and have it all 100% hidden. To me, it's the experience. One of these rooms now you walk into, and Will's kind of saying, you walk into this room, they want to just work. You walk in, some occupancy sensor notices you're there, everything magically just turns on. The devices are so tiny anymore, or easily mountable. There's a very little I feel we can't do now as a manufacturer because of what's available to us to build product.
Well, and some of that also the miniaturization of the technology in general, right? I mean,
right. Exactly.
I think all four of us are of a certain age that we remember big boom boxes and stuff like that. And I'm not saying any of us had tube radios. None of us are that old. Jeremy might be. As that technology advanced, you got into transistors and this, that, and the other, and then things got smaller, right? And the same things happened with AV, right? Mm-hmm. I mentioned a story, I think, before we started that my first instance in an AV in my AV life was taking out an old Barco 3-gun projector. Well, that technology has shrunken down now, and that was probably, I don't know, a 500 lumens projector. Who knows? And now I can get a 5,000 lumens, not a 500 lumens. So, Mr. Calera, same kind of question here. As you're dealing with your clients, and whether it's a Fortune 50 manufacturer or a local church, when they're talking about making sure that they can't see the AV but they want it to work, how do you solve that?
I like what he said about the experience. That's exactly what you're looking for, right? An experience is a room where you can't see all this crazy technology, but you can do all kinds of cool stuff. And it's easy to use and it's simple. For us, it's just hide it where you can hide it, right? I don't like equipment racks. I like simplification. So, I mean, granted, larger systems, you have to have racks and matrices and all this other kind of stuff. But if we can simplify the actual operation and experience and equipment and design, there's not that much gear to hide, right? If you can get clever about things like speakers and things like amplification and using more Energy Star efficient products that are smaller and smaller form factors, it's really not that difficult. It only gets really crazy when you get funky furniture, right? And that's becoming more and more of a popular thing. But it's interesting. I've seen trends where we've gone to this really open workspaces and super modern furniture and glass everywhere, which is terrible for acoustics, terrible for hiding things. But now it's going back to closed office spaces, and we're getting away from some of these open office spaces because they don't like what the experience has been, opening things up. So it's kind of cyclical. So it just depends. But as far as I'm concerned, the way the technology is progressing, we have the opportunity to hide things and do it very easily.
Yeah, that was one of my I mentioned Chris Netto a minute ago. That was one of his biggest challenges, but because at the time the trend was more for complete glass boardrooms, right? Because they wanted to be able to see everything, but acoustically, but also hiding things was very, 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 very difficult. So, last story here, guys, comes to us actually from our website. We have a release here from Kramer. Before we get started, Kramer is an underwriter and a supporter of AVNation. Itzhak Bambangier is the new CEO of Kramer. The former IBM director will quote unquote further Kramer's software drive and cloud-based initiatives. And Joel, I'm going to start with you on this. First of all, congratulations to Itzhak, but also and to Kramer. But I find it interesting that Itzhak is a former IBM employee. He worked in their software development and their compact division for almost 20 years. Kramer and other AV manufacturers have made huge pushes into the software parts of AV. Is this a kind of a harbinger of things to come when it comes to other heads of AV companies, where folks who have the IT chops and have spent years in the IT sector are now going to come into this space and say, you know what, let me help you guys get to the next level in this software era of AV?
I absolutely think so. When you kind of look at what's happened with AV, and we all talk about AV IT and the emergence, it's almost now it's IT and there's some AV still. I mean, the AV really stops at a lot of these inputs of the devices and it goes all IT. A point that he made I found interesting in the article was they're going to work to deliver products. I think it was something that said that's wholly familiar and expected by IT departments. So his goal is to start to deliver these things in a way that they're used to, since a lot of those end users, a lot of the customers are actually providing the AV experience, all-in-one devices or whatever it is. I'd be very surprised if we don't see more companies, whoever it might be, whether it be audio, video, or whatnot, start following more of these types of trends and pulling in what I would call maybe the non-traditional leaders to become leaders in the AV market space. So yes, it was a surprise, but I was pretty excited to see this, and I'd be very interested to see where this goes.
Yeah. Jeremy, Joel mentioned the fact that they are going to be, making products and looking towards the IT managers and the IT departments to develop products that they expect to see, and making this move. Is this something that you expect to see more and more out of not just Kramer but also other manufacturers moving forward?
I mean, yes, we're seeing it already, but not just Kramer, with other manufacturers now. And I think it's these early adopters who are recognizing this, and they identify it and they're going with it gung ho, full steam ahead. They're the ones that are going to prevail in the end. I mean, in all reality, we've said the same thing about integrators in general, right? I mean, it's like, traditional AV's dead. Like, get on board with this new IT thing. Right. So if the manufacturers, the early adopters that are going to handle that are going to be the ones that ultimately succeed.
Yeah. Will, what are some of the challenges that integrators are facing now when it comes to getting these products into IT departments' hands, or is it becoming more and more easy because the manufacturers are looking at this as an opportunity to start developing more IT centric devices?
It depends on the product. I look at it from the perspective of we're more poised to take over a lot of traditional IT than IT is poised to take over IV or AV, and we run into it. The biggest challenge is usually security, and that's something that the AV world has not traditionally embraced the same way. The IT world, it's usually checkbox 1 or checkbox 2 on a product in terms of what is the security, what are the STIGs around that, and it's something AV really needs to get wrapping their head around it. It's probably our major, our sole hugest liability we have as an industry now as we start developing these systems. We're putting, we talked about the Shure mic, putting audio on a network, putting video on a network, doing all this on a network. That's our biggest liability right now, that we have now become a vulnerability on the network as well. And to the extent we can address that when we start talking to the IT departments, they have a level of comfort with us right off the bat. If we can't talk that language and we can't be on the same page with them, they really don't want anything to do with us and or what we're talking to them about. So I'm surprised more companies aren't going that way, to be honest.
No. Let me ask this, and this is for any of the three of you. I've heard that, Will, more than once, where we have to be able to talk that language, right? We have to be able to speak not just the IT language, but the security language, and make sure that our devices are secure. How do we get there, right? How do we get our people there? How do we get our technicians there? And honestly, how do we get our salespeople and our sales engineers there to where they can speak that language knowledgeably and intelligently and not just be regurgitating buzzwords?
Training.
Yep, absolutely. Training.
Well, training, hiring, strategic hires, building that.
Finding training that works well for that. Yeah.
Yeah, building a portion of your company. Acquisitions are big in the industry now. Any and all of the above, knowing that it's a priority. The same as if you don't have a person that doesn't understand acoustics, it's really tough to design a sound system.
Well, sometimes it's easier to hire, like you said. Hire an IT guy, teach him AV. Sometimes that's easier. Sometimes.
But it's a lot of it, I feel, is also a lot of the onus is on us as a manufacturer. If we're developing these products and are creating them for the IT world, one, we have to make sure that we're creating the products with those securities and other issues that people are bringing up. But the other concern I see is if we're developing the product and selling into our existing customer base, the manufacturers out there have to make sure that the people they're selling to are able to have that conversation to speak knowledgeably about it. And it's not maybe making them a new IT engineer, but giving them some of the key terms to know enough to then know when to call the engineer or when to call that manufacturer for that additional support.
All right, so let me ask a dangerous question here, Joel. Will and Jeremy have dealerships, right? They have agreements with certain manufacturers. They're able to buy directly from the manufacturer, and some of the stuff they have to go through distributorship. But again, they have agreements, and they understand that they have to do certain things to keep those agreements in place. What happens when the manufacturer, whoever, comes to Will and says, Will, you've been a great customer for 10 years. We think you're fantastic. You can't sell this product for a while because we don't think you're qualified, right? We don't think you're and obviously they would sell it in a very nice, hopefully they would say it in a very nice way. But
you're done, out.
You're done, you're out. Oh, I've heard those conversations. But they say, we think you're great. We think you're fantastic. You can do this line over here. You just can't do this one yet, this new one yet, because we want you to go through training. That's going to cost you. Possibly, right? And again, different manufacturers do it different ways. How do you have that conversation? And Will and Jeremy, how do you respond to that when they say, this is such a specialized piece where it's so security heavy or so IT heavy that we really want you to have the training from us to make sure that you can do it properly?
Well, I'll jump in. You know, specialized stuff, I 100% agree with this. Right? You need to have the training and the certification. Some other things, I get manufacturers that I'll call a product and I need it because it's spec'd into something and we're not a dealer for it. And they want me to invest all this money into all this training. And I'm just thinking to myself, you know, there's a million products out there like you. I don't need you. I'm just stuck using you. You know what I mean? Just sign me up and let's get going here, right? This product is not that hard to implement. All right. But then there are things that, don't get me wrong, that do require the training, and I'm 100% on board with that. So I have mixed feelings depending on what the application of the product is.
It depends.
Well, and I do as well. I mean, one of the things from the manufacturing side I look at is, now we created, let's say, the problem, right? We've created this and we've worked with XYZ company, and maybe it be Jeremy or Will's company for 10 years, 20 years, whatever the case may be. Now we're going to our good customers and say no. So other things that we could look at from a manufacturing side, whether it be Wolf Vision or any other company, is instead of saying no right away, you offer services to help elevate them. So you'd be able to say, hey, what if we give you commissioning services where you have the ability of bringing one of the engineers from said manufacturer, whoever it is, not at a ridiculously high price, but it's something that would make sense to you and the customer. So again, it comes back to the experience. Your installation experience goes well, your customer experience goes well, and it's a learning curve for all of us as we're all going down that direction. And that's also training, right? There's somebody there working with those installers and the designer at that point, helping them understand that.
And there's
opposed to saying you're done.
to the story, because if you're one of those dealers that has invested heavily in the training, and that investment's huge, lots of times, you don't want somebody that hasn't invested in that training to be on the same playing field as you when you get into a competitive scenario. The other side of that is, look at all this. Everything's about relationships and who you know, and staying abreast of the technology. And we like to be informed with our the manufacturers and the vendors that we support to know what's coming down the pipe and what are the skill sets we're going to need to deploy those products. Make sure our people are on board, and that the manufacturers and the vendors are aware that we are on board and we have the technology and the skill set to do it. Because these are big money investments that we make every day, and we like to think we're not practicing when we deploy things for our clients. So it's trying to get out there and act like professionals and really deliver the service that our clients demand. Really mandates that we're in lockstep with the manufacturers and as an industry deploying these solutions.
Very good. That'll be a good place to end it there. Gentlemen, thank you all so much. Mr. Jeremy Caldera from IAS, thank you, sir.
No problem. Glad to be here.
How do people get a hold of you or IAS?
IAStechnology.net or on the Twitter, Jeremy_Caldera.
All right, very good. Mr. Joe Carroll from Wolf Vision, thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's great being here again, Tim.
Absolutely, absolutely. And where do people find you if they're so inclined?
So wolfvision.com, or you can email me at joel.carroll@wolfvision.us or lavarevolution.com.
Yeah. Revolution actually is a cool thing that he and his wife started. So you need to check that out. Lots of good training and stuff. So also Mr. Will Seifert from CTSI. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Thank you.
And how do people get a hold of you or CTSI if they are so inclined?
CTSI-USA.com. Check us out.
All right, very good. For me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me on the Twitters because I am certainly complaining about the Chicago Bears at this point, and looking forward to. I have no. The Blues are still winning. How about that? I got that going for me.
Hey, you could be a Redskin fan.
Well, you know what? It's 50-50. I don't know. I could be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan at this, or a Browns fan at this point, but that's a whole nother. Yeah, if you watch the replay when you're getting this on Monday, watch the replay from the Thursday night's game. It was kind of brutal. But go to the website if you would please, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. While you're there, please check out our supporter section. These are folks who help us financially, help us bring you AVWeek and Resi Week and a whole lot more. I actually mentioned the fact that I'll be hanging out with Joel. You'll get this on Monday, so this will be Tuesday in Atlanta. If you're a tech manager in Atlanta, please come in and hang out with us. Put a link to the event. And if you were in the DC area with Will, the 4th and 5th of December, I'll be hanging out with the folks at Future at the video show talking about social media and podcasting. So check out those as well. We'll put a link on this episode's page. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.